The nurse tapped my shoulder like she didn't want to startle me. "Sir, her emergency contact has already arrived. He's with the doctor now." I looked up from my hands. They were still folded, still shaking. "Sorry what? I'm her husband." She gave that professional smile, the kind that comes with hospital lighting and practiced empathy. According to the file, her contact is listed as James Weller. She said it gently, like she knew something I didn't. But I did. I stood up slow, nodding like the floor was still shifting beneath me. James. She hadn't said that name in years. Not since she deleted his number in front of me after we got engaged. Or said she'd blocked him, said she'd moved on. I followed the nurse around the corner to the waiting area by surgery intake. He was already there. Sitting straight, hands in his lap, wearing a navy coat I recognized from an old picture she once swore she burned. He didn't flinch when he saw me. Didn't stand, didn't smile. Just looked tired, like he'd run out of justifications. I opened my mouth to speak, but the doctor came through first. "Mr. Weller." He stood and walked toward him like this was rehearsed. Like they'd done this before. The nurse touched my arm again. "If you'd like, you can wait here. The surgery, still ongoing. They'll update the emergency contact directly." I wanted to say something, anything. But what? That I was her real husband. That I paid the premiums on her health insurance. That I picked her up from that same ER 2 years ago when she fainted at a conference. Instead, I sat. Same plastic chair, same cheap tile floor. But everything had changed. I looked down at my phone. No missed calls. No messages. Nothing from her. My hand brushed the ring on my finger. I twisted it once, like maybe it had loosened on its own. It hadn't. James came back 20 minutes later. Didn't look at me. He just walked past and sat in the opposite corner of the room. The space between us buzzed with words we'd never say out loud. I watched him tap something into his phone. Probably updating her mother or her friends. People who still thought I was the husband. The overhead speaker called another name. The hallway doors hissed open, then closed. I stared at them, waiting. But no one came for me. A vending machine down the corridor buzzed and clicked, someone trying to get a soda that wouldn't drop. That sound was louder than anything else. Louder than the silence between me and the man she chose. Louder than the realization crawling through my spine. This wasn't a mistake. She didn't forget to update me. She removed me. Piece by piece, quietly, like packing for a trip without waking the house. James stood and walked past me again. He paused just for a second, then kept moving. Didn't say a word. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about love. It was about control. She picked the day, the form, the silence. But she forgot something. I learn best when I'm quiet. And I was just getting started. There was a post-it on the coffee maker. Yellow curled at the corner, her handwriting bubbly and rushed. "Emergency contact forms, you forgot." I remember smiling when I saw it. She always left notes like that on mirrors, monitors, receipts, a trail of reminders disguised as affection. Back then, I thought that was love. Effort, attention, the way she remembered every boring task so I didn't have to. She was the one who booked our flights, filed our taxes, dealt with hotel keys when they got demagnetized. I used to joke that she was the operations team in our relationship. She'd laugh and say, "Every dreamer needs an assistant." But I didn't feel small. Not then. We met at a startup pitch night in Soma. I was on stage, nervous, overselling, sweating through my only decent button-down. She came up to me after the Q&A and said, "You've got something, but your third slide, trash." I thought she was kidding. She was. She pulled a pen from her bag and started sketching a better layout on a napkin. 15 minutes later, I had a new pitch and her number. Our first date wasn't dinner. It was a redesign session in a late-night cafe. She drank black coffee, no cream, no sugar. I thought that meant she was focused, efficient. Now I know it just meant she didn't like sweetness, not even in small doses. We moved in together after 3 months. Married in 9. I still remember her vows. She said, "I promise to take care of what you forget, so you can keep building what you dream." Everyone thought it was romantic. I did too. The first time she asked for my medical info, it was because she said her company needed it for HR. I didn't ask questions, I just handed it over. She handled the insurance paperwork, the car titles, the shared calendars. She color-coded our life. Mine was green, hers was red. She always had control of the pen. There was comfort in it, at least at first. And when people said, "That's fast," I always had the same answer. "Yeah, but we just work." I believed it. Every system needs a structure. I thought I was the engine. But maybe I was just the passenger. It's strange how love can feel like freedom, while it's actually fencing you in. One checkbox at a time. One form at a time. I never saw the strings because she tied them slowly. And she smiled the whole time. Back then I called it trust. Now I call it delegation. And I'm learning that if you delegate too much, you forget what you own. Or worse, who owns you. The funny part is, I still have that post-it, folded in an old notebook. I kept it because I thought it marked the day we became a team. Now I look at it, and all I see is a checklist, a reminder, and a warning. I was late once. She made sure I'd never be in charge again. And the next time she handed me a pen, it was to sign the marriage license. She'd already filled out the rest. It was the U2 song that did it. I was slicing up bell peppers for dinner. She liked them cut into strips, not chunks, when her phone rang from the hallway. That opening riff, bright, echoey, unmistakable. "With or without you." She once told me that song reminded her of James. Said it during one of those late-night honesty sessions, when we still believed that revealing past scars made us stronger. Back when I thought knowing her ghosts meant I'd never become one of them. So when I heard it, I just froze, knife midair. She walked in a second later, saw my face, and tilted her head. "What?" "That ringtone," I said. She glanced toward her phone like she was trying to remember what sound I'd even heard. "Oh, that. It's just the default, babe. You're imagining things." She smiled. That soft, sideways smile that always landed somewhere between amused and disappointed. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the knife in my hand felt heavier than it should have. She changed the ringtone later that night. Didn't mention it, just changed it. That's when I started noticing other things. Small stuff, tiny shifts. She slammed her laptop closed a little too fast when I walked into the room. Said she was on deadline. I asked what the project was. She gave me the name of a company I'd never heard her mention before. Said it was freelance work, a side gig. She never used to keep secrets about money. Now her emails were always in incognito mode. Then there was the gym. She started going 4 times a week. Bought new leggings, a new duffel bag. But her sneakers, same pair she'd had for 2 years, stayed clean. The soles didn't change. No scuff marks, no wear on the tread. I picked them up once just to check. Still smelled like closet air. Then the work calls started. Always in the bathroom, always behind a locked door. Her voice stayed low, but I could hear the pattern: laughter, silence, pause, then whispers. One night I timed it. 38 minutes. No one needs 38 minutes to confirm shipment delays. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the light spilling under the door. I could have knocked, could have asked who she was talking to. But instead, I lay back on the covers and stared at the ceiling. Because the truth wasn't behind that door. It was all around me. In the way she'd started turning her face when I kissed her goodbye. In how she'd leave her phone face down, even when she wasn't using it. In the fact that she stopped asking if I wanted to go with her on errands, just started going alone. I didn't say anything. Not yet. It wasn't fear. It was precision. I'd learned from her. You don't throw a match just because you smell gasoline. You wait. You let it pool. You learn where the trail leads. She thought I was drifting. What I was doing was collecting. And when I finally confronted her, it wouldn't be with questions. It would be with facts. The printer jammed. Of course it did. It always did when I actually needed it. She asked me to print the new health insurance cards. Said HR needed a scanned copy with both our names for some tax filing thing. I remember thinking strange, since she usually handled that. But maybe that was the point. She was letting me feel involved again. I opened her work laptop. She'd left it open on the dining table. No password prompt, no sign-in screen. Just a tab marked Benefits Portal. It should have been easy. But when I clicked the Downloads folder to grab the right PDF, I saw the other file. Weller ICE PDF. I paused. Weller. It clicked faster than I could stop it. I opened it. It was an info sheet, emergency contacts, next of kin documentation. His name, James Weller, was listed at the top. Not under secondary. Primary. Mine wasn't on there at all. That was the first punch. The second came with the email. I wasn't even looking for it, just hit back one too many times. It was there in the sent folder. Hey, if anything happens to me, you know what to do. Love you always. Timestamp, exactly 7 days before her ski trip. No subject line, no salutation. Just confidence, like this was routine. I stared at the screen until the text blurred. Not because I was crying, I was. But because my brain just stopped letting it in. Like a fuse had tripped somewhere behind my eyes. The dog barked from the bedroom. Her leash was hanging by the door, the hook labeled Walk She, made from those cutesy Etsy tiles. I reached for the cabinet under it, where we kept her vet papers. The top sheet listed James's number. Not mine. I flipped through. Every form, every renewal, every update, all his contact info. I sat on the floor with the folder in my lap. Didn't move. Didn't blink. There wasn't a single record of me anymore. She had erased me. Quietly. Efficiently. Like clearing out browser history. Even our joint Google Drive, the one where we used to keep everything, was empty on my end. All the folders were renamed, locked, or gone. I clicked through backup links. Denied. Access revoked. The ring on my finger felt tighter. I twisted it out of habit. It didn't budge. I opened my own email, looked for the invitation to her ski trip itinerary, the one she said she'd send. Nothing. I checked the calendar. She'd marked the weekend as solo recharge. I started thinking back. Every time I'd offered to join her. Every time she said, "You'd be bored," or "It's just a girl's thing." Girl's thing. Then why did the Airbnb receipt in the trash have 2 lift passes? I reached into the trash icon. Opened the deleted items. She hadn't even cleared it fully. Reservation, car rental, digital passes, all under her name, billed to our joint card, but every confirmation sent to his email. I didn't scream, didn't break anything. That would have been too loud, too theatrical. And this, whatever this was, deserved silence. It was like someone had taken a page out of my life and replaced it with static. No text, no image, just noise. White, blinding, empty. And still, somewhere inside me, something was awake. Not rage, not grief, just a question. How long had I been watching the wrong story, and when did she change the ending? I made her tea that morning. Honey chamomile. No lemon, she said. Citrus made her stomach tight. She smiled when I brought it to her at the desk. Look at you being all domestic, she said, tapping her fingers twice on the cup like a thank you. Then she turned back to her screen, scrolling. I watched her eyes track across the monitor. Fast, practiced, probably emails, possibly him. Either way, it didn't matter. Because I wasn't there for the truth anymore. I was there for the mirror. Later that night, I told her the internet had been acting up. I think it's the router. I'll reset it and check the signal routing. She waved me off without even looking up from her phone. Have fun, just don't kill the Netflix. What I actually did was clone her cloud account. I'd studied her habits, her logins, her sync patterns. She had a habit of using the same base password and just changing the numbers at the end. Once I got in, I set up a mirror on my own drive, folder for folder. Emails, notes, photos, shared docs. Every click she made, I saw it. Every upload, every deleted item. I wasn't tracking her anymore. I was shadowing her. She started calling me soft again. In a good way. Lately you've been gentle, I like it. I kissed her forehead and nodded. Just trying to be what you need. She leaned into me, and I saw her glance at the corner of her phone screen. New notification. Muted it. She told me she was flying out to visit her aunt in Portland. 3 days. Family stuff. I said nothing, just smiled and offered to drop her off at the airport. She said no, claimed she'd grab an Uber. Said she didn't want me waiting around. When she showered the night before, I checked her travel folder. Found the flight info. Booking confirmation showed Austin, not Portland. Round trip 3 nights. 2 passengers. James Weller listed second. I closed the file, backed it up to my clone, and reset the screen brightness before she came out. She walked into the room wearing her flight hoodie, the gray one with the thumb holes. I used to think it was cute how she always wore that on planes. Now it just looked like a uniform. A costume for deception. I helped her pack. Slid the zip up on her carry-on. She kissed me quick. Tight. Like someone sealing an envelope, not opening a door. When she left, I didn't follow. Didn't track her in real time. I'd already seen enough. Instead, I sat in her office and stared at the clock on the wall. The one we bought together at that flea market in Santa Fe. It ticked with a faint click every 5 seconds. You could barely hear it unless you were alone. I opened a blank doc. Typed her name. Then mine. Then the word exit. I wasn't looking for a blow-up. No screaming match. No confrontation. I wanted precision. What she built, this thing she thought was hidden, it wasn't messy. It was surgical. Calculated. Clean. So that's what I gave her in return. I started by separating the finances. Logged into our shared budgeting app and created shadow categories. Rerouted my paycheck to a private account she didn't know about. Slowly, 1 digit at a time. so nothing would flag. I downloaded the mortgage agreements, the prenup, reviewed the crypto assets she forgot to mention in her side gig earnings. All legal, all quiet, and every time she sent a photo from Portland, I smiled, because the geotags told a different story. She thought she was rewriting our story behind my back. But I'd already started the sequel. And this time, I was the one holding the pen. She limped through the front door with her suitcase dragging behind her like it weighed more than she did. I looked up from the couch. Everything okay? She winced, smiled barely. Twisted my knee at the airport. Some guy cut in front of me at security. She was always good at details, the kind that made lies believable. I offered to help her unpack. She said she already did it, just toiletries. The bag didn't look touched. I didn't press. She showered with the door closed. Locked. I heard her groan once, low, muffled. Pain or performance, I couldn't tell. We barely talked that week. She said work was chaotic, back-to-back meetings, late-night calls. I nodded. Made her tea again. Chamomile, still no lemon. Then on a Thursday, her coworker called me frantic. She passed out in the office bathroom. They called an ambulance. I didn't ask for details. I just grabbed my keys. By the time I got to the hospital, she was already in surgery. I ran to the front desk, gave her name, spelled it twice. The nurse checked the chart and looked up. I'm sorry, the emergency contact has already been notified. I'm her husband. She tilted her head. She listed her fiancé, James Weller. I stared at her like the words hadn't landed yet. Fiancé. Not boyfriend. Not emergency contact. Fiancé. The nurse gave me that same look, the one that mixes apology with protocol. If you'd like, you can wait in the secondary lounge. He was already there, sitting in the corner, scrolling through his phone. Same navy coat. New ring. He looked up. We locked eyes for 2 seconds. He didn't flinch. Didn't smirk. He just existed. I didn't say a word. Didn't claim anything. Didn't need to. Because 2 weeks earlier, I'd quietly filed for divorce. Served by a third-party process server. All communication routed through a law office. Her signature not required for the filing, just for the fight. But there wouldn't be one. She'd married me after secretly marrying him. Different state, different timeline. But the records were real. And in our state, that's not just betrayal. It's fraud. The prenup didn't cover multiple marriages. But the law did. Her name on 2 legal marriage licenses made everything else irrelevant, which meant the assets tied to our name. Contested. Frozen. She didn't know that yet. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, looked like he was about to say something. Then didn't. I didn't sit next to him. I walked to the vending machine, got a ginger ale, and sat on the windowsill instead. The nurse came back out. Asked who would be handling decisions if further consent was needed. James stood. I will. I let him. Let him sign. Let him play the role. Because I didn't need to be the one holding the clipboard. I already held the paperwork. And in this game, that was the only thing that mattered. She rewritten the cast. Reassigned the roles. But she forgot who owned the stage. And by the time she woke up, the curtain would already be falling. The call came 5 days after she was discharged. I recognized the number, blocked once, then unblocked. I let it ring twice before answering. Her voice was thin, like she hadn't slept. Maybe she hadn't. Why didn't you tell me you knew? I didn't sigh, didn't scoff, just let the silence do the work. Then I said, "Why would I interrupt your plan?" Click. I hung up before she could speak again. I didn't need apologies. Didn't want the script she probably rehearsed, the one with tears and confusion and justifications tied in bows. What she didn't know yet, what she was probably just starting to realize, was that everything was already done. The house, transferred. She never noticed the quitclaim deed I'd filed months ago. I'd used our LLC to restructure the property title. Her name never made it back on. The prenup, still in place. But I'd added an amendment during our third year, a clause she initialed without reading, buried under vacation bookings and sign here real quick documents. It protected joint property in the case of double spousal fraud. I drafted it after I first saw her Venmo history. Our investment account. She thought it was for a down payment on a second home. She'd wired over 35 grand into it over the course of 2 years. Every deposit tagged for us. I dissolved it the day she left for Austin. Legally. Documented. Reclassified as liquid reserves under a sole proprietorship, mine. She got the man. I got everything else. It wasn't revenge. It was recovery. She started posting again a week later. Filtered photos of lakes and candles, and rented airbnbs that looked like retreats. Captions with vague quotes in cursive fonts. One read, "Some people will never understand the sacrifices you make for love." With a broken heart emoji and a tree. Friends commented, "You're so strong. Keep shining, girl. Let them regret losing you." I didn't comment. Didn't watch the stories. Didn't block her. I just let the algorithm work. Let the story she wanted float out into the world, while the real one stayed quiet in folders labeled with legal codes. And the views climbed. Hundreds, then thousands. A curated collapse, wrapped in self-help language. I scrolled through the likes. Noticed James hadn't liked it. Not yet. I logged out. Closed the tab. Sat in the kitchen and listened to the refrigerator hum. That same sound I used to hate when she said silence made her anxious. Now it made me feel something close to peace. Not joy. Not closure. Just stillness. And in that stillness I realized she'd always needed an audience. But I'd learned how to disappear. She used to say she loved me because I didn't make scenes. Said I brought calm into her chaos. That I was the kind of man who wouldn't raise his voice in a crowded room, even when I was right. At the time, it felt like a compliment. Now, I wonder if it was something else. Not calm. Just convenient. Not peace. Just silence that let her move freely. She told her friends I was the safe one. It sounded sweet back then. But now I wonder if she really meant forgettable. The paperwork's finished. Signed, stamped, filed. The accounts have been closed or red-idled. The photos deleted. Shared drives wiped. Our wedding video, once stored in 3 locations, is now sitting on a hard drive I'll never plug in again. She's with him now. Moved in, according to a mutual friend who still thinks I want updates. Same zip code where we almost bought our forever house. She hasn't reached out since the call. No emails. No letters. Nothing physical. Just a lingering presence in the system. Caller ID, spam folders, name references on shared store accounts. I still get the occasional call. Medical billing, delivery mishap, an old pharmacy follow-up. "Hi, is this Mr. Weller's emergency contact?" I just say, "Not anymore," and hang up. No explanation. No correction. No need. I've stopped asking questions like, why me? There's no clean answer. Only patterns. Choices. Hers were made in whispers. Mine were made in silence. There's a peace in knowing you didn't scream, that you let the house burn without throwing gasoline. Because the fire was already set, you just made sure you weren't in it. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear her laugh in my head. Not the way she laughed with me, but the one she started using near the end. It had a different edge. Sharper. Practiced. Like it was meant for someone else. And that's the thing, really. She never left me. She just slowly stepped into the life she'd already built beside mine. Quietly. Strategically. Like moving clothes from one closet to another. She always liked clean exits. So I gave her one. And now, I'm not angry. Not bitter. Just still. Like the moment before the ocean pulls back. Right before a wave. This is Revenge with Camden. If you've ever been betrayed by the person you trusted most, hit subscribe. You're not alone.